We are back, everybody, with episode 33 of the What's He On About cricket podcast. And boy, have we had some cricket since I was last here. We've had two tests between England and India. We've had two tests between Australia and the West Indies. And we've also had some absolute whacking from the bat of the 14-year-old Vaibhav Suryavanshi for India under-19s. We'll come on to that. And we've also got my club cricket game of the week. We're going to talk through all of that, plus a little preview of Lords and maybe some thoughts on the Ashes as you ask yourself, what is he on about? England won, India won. Honours are even. But the second test didn't really look like that, did it? And they didn't even have Bumrah, did India? We're going to start where we have to, really. There's only one place, which is the new Indian captain, Shubman Gill, whose start to the captaincy has involved just these two test matches against England, where he has scored 585 runs, including 300 at an average of 146 an innings. It was 269, followed by 161 in the second game, which absolutely fried the England bowlers. He showed absolute class, so chanceless. That first 100 in that first innings only had a false shot percentage of 3.5%. And that was off about 150 balls. So that shows he probably played and missed at about six, which I think came to one of the lowest ever false shot percentages ever scored by a person to make 100. That's mind-boggling. Shows how good a form this bloke is in. Shubman Gill is absolutely tremendous. His captaincy went to the next level in this test, and he made England look like an absolute bunch of, I don't know even what to say. He made them look average, unfortunately. But I think it didn't stop there really for India because it was 50s each for Jaiswal, Pant, and Rahul in this second test, building on hundreds from Jaiswal and Pant in the first test. And it was just another difference. Jadeja. He looked silent in the first test, made two back-to-back 50s in the second test, which is just all part of grinding England down into the form that they were come that end of that second test. They were suffering, but it's so good from India all the way through that top six, who were absolutely scintillating. Jadeja was back at his annoying best. That all-rounder who you think's a bowler, you think's going to be an easy wicket, and then he's just chanceless, isn't he? He just grinds away at the England bowlers, nurdles them, doesn't take too many risks, and it is just brilliant from Jadeja. It is all the top six other than Karen Nair. This guy is the only bloke who is yet to perform for India. He batted at three this test, at number five in the test before. And I worry because this guy's got a test triple hundred against England. So something makes me think that despite he being the only missing link in this top six for India, he's done it. He's done that against us before. So why can't he do it again? So I am worried looking forward to the next test and the next series of matches. Those next three games for India, their batting is in fine, fine form. But so's England. But we're going to talk about the Indian bowlers before we move on. Because whilst the England pace bowlers had some struggles, the Indian fast bowlers, without Bumrah, showed no struggles at all. In the first innings, all 10 wickets were shared by Akash Deep, who came in for Jasprit Bumrah, who took 4 for 88 in that first innings, and Mohammad Siraj, who took a beautiful 6 for 70, both showing incredible skill with a new ball, working out batsmen all the way through the order, not just doing a Josh Tongue and taking just the tail enders out of the picture, but all the way through the order. Akash Deep in the second innings took 5 of the top 6 in the likes of, I think it was 5 of the top 7. Actually, apologies. The only of those top seven he didn't take was Zach Crawley and Ben Stokes in that second innings. But Deep took 6 for 99 in that final innings, which gave him 10 wickets in the match. The first time an Indian has done that in a test match since Umesh Yadav in 2018. That's 7 years ago. And I think I just want to end the Indian review on this stat, which is Deep took 10 wickets in that game. All right. All the England fast bowlers combined, including Stokes, so that's Tongue, Carse, Wokes, and Stokes, took 9 wickets in the test match. Deep took 10 on his own. So that shows the gap between India's bowling and England's bowling. Not much daylight really for spinners on either side of the teams. But yeah, that being the real difference in that final test, as well as Shubman Gill showing his signs of class and getting a double 50, well, a double ton 50 and a 150. You know, the difference is really in that fast bowling at the minute for me. But we'll come on to that in a moment as we look at England. Jamie Smith, 184 not out in the first innings in this second test, and 88 in that second innings of the second test. What a player he is. I used to feel quite bad for Ben Folkes, sorry. I used to think he was a incredible gloveman. He had to be in the side because he'd take some wickets just with his gloves. You know, he'd take 2 extra wickets in the test match just because he's that good at keeping. But now, after seeing all those dreams of Jamie Smith come true, I now understand why people are so obsessed with Jamie Smith. Absolutely brilliant cricket at a great tempo throughout the whole test match, whether we were thinking about the draw or going all guns blazing for the win, or whether we were protecting a collapse in the first innings. Jamie Smith batted like he was just playing on his own. It was just him in a park batting with his mates. He couldn't get out. It was just him batting alone. And it really looked like that. We're not going to skim over Brooks 158, don't worry. Those two put on an absolutely fine show in that first innings. And they had a 300-run partnership among England's 407 all out. The lowest score ever with a 300 partnership also in the test. And that wasn't the only record to be broken in this innings. It was one of the strangest innings of all time. And it kind of I don't know whether to feel good as an England fan that we got to 407 despite getting 6 ducks. So that's the highest score ever, by the way, in Test cricket with 6 ducks. I don't know if that's a good thing that, we battled through it, or it's a bad thing that we got 6 ducks. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest, because we wouldn't want to be 50 all out. But also 6 ducks in a test is absolutely horror. First time ever there's been 6 ducks and two 150 plus scores. It's crazy to think about, isn't it? It's also the lowest balls ever it's taken. It's not the first time ever for there to be 6 ducks in a test. I think it's about the ninth or something. But it's the lowest balls ever. These 6 ducks took 15 balls in total. So England made 407 despite 6 people falling for no run within the space of 15 balls. It is mind-boggling, isn't it? Extras was the fourth highest run scorer among the 407 with 19, and he was only, well, extras was only 3 runs behind the third top run scorer of Joe Root with 22. 22 was the third highest run scorer. It is incredible. But I'm going to move us forward for the England batting in particular towards that final innings. Jamie Smith made an incredible 88 amongst all the horror that was going on around him. But it raises the question, should England have swallowed their pride and played for the draw? That's the question that's been on everyone's lips over the last few days. Well, England needed about 550 or something to win. And it's very un-Bazball-like, isn't it? To think we're going to bat for the draw here. And my answer to the question of should England play for the draw is no. You might get angry at that. You might be annoyed with me for saying no. But this is their ethos, everyone. This is Bazball and Ben Stokes' ethos. that they're never going to back down. Whatever the total is, they're going to go for it. Everyone's going to bat how they want to bat in any situation. And to be honest, despite losing by 336 runs or whatever, I'm here for it. I'm here for a team that is sticking to their ethos, to their mentality. They are absolutely sticking to it. And they've lost by 336 runs. And to be honest, I don't think that would phase them. I reckon Brendan McCullum's team talk after that game would have been relatively positive, to be honest. He would have been happy that people went after the game. Maybe he would be annoyed that they didn't go after it enough. That is the idea that Brendan McCullum moves forward with. He doesn't care if people get out trying to reverse ramp, if that's what they were thinking at the time. So maybe another England team could have played for the draw. All right. But I agree with the way they went at it, that that was their best chance of winning the game. Their mentality is to win the game at all costs, no draw, just win. I'm not sure I agree with that personally, because if we want to win the World Test Championship, which must be a goal of this side, draws are quite important, especially when the Indian captain gets, I don't know, 400 runs in the Test match or whatever he did. I think he got about 450, something ridiculous like that. But I agree with England's mentality in that final innings. I think they had to do it because can you imagine if they went out for the draw and got skittled? It would have looked embarrassing, wouldn't it? And that's completely against this idea that the England team are moving forward with. So, all guns blazing is what I want to see more often. And it moves us forward to Lords. We're not quite there yet. But I think it's important to raise the point that some pundits thought it would have been easy to bat out for the draw for the day on a flat deck. And there is that argument, yes, that maybe these lads would have been able to bat for the draw if that was their main goal. However, I look at Ben Duckett's defence and I think that wouldn't have lasted too long, considering he probably only plays five defensive shots an innings, and he's pretty good, isn't he? He got 160 odd to win us the game in that final innings on the first test, 149, sorry. But Zach Crawley's defence isn't his best shot either. Ollie Pope looks a little bit scratchy in his defence. So, that's our top three who you're asking to go out and bat for the draw. And, you kind of get stuck for options here because if those three all get out playing defensive shots, you can kind of think that maybe that wasn't the right way to go. Anyway, we've looked at England's batting. Despite getting six ducks, I really don't think that's where the problem lies, which feels like a challenging statement to say. However, England's fast bowling does not have it, do they? They do not have it. And I think the way that England bat, as it's been said previously, doesn't give the England bowlers any time to rest, does it? At all. Despite getting 407, I think it took them 90 overs or so. And it meant that the England bowlers were bowling on every single day of the Test match. But we're going to have a little look at their stats so far this series, the England fast bowlers in particular. We're not really going to discuss Bashir. I tell you what, we'll just discuss Bashir now. Does Bashir play the next few tests? Yes. I haven't given this much thought, but 100% only because we spent too much time on him now. And also, Ben Stokes will never go anywhere else. It seems that even if Bashir, gets pumped in the third test, doesn't take any wickets, he'll play the fourth test, he'll play the fifth test. He's still 21 years old, I believe, and Ben Stokes still backs him to be his spinner. And he'll back him to be his spinner in the Ashes. So, in answer to the question of will Bashir play the next few tests and will he play in the Ashes, he will. And the answer to the question is, do I think he should? Well, probably not, unfortunately. And I would not go to Liam Dawson now, but I think that actually when Bashir made his debut in India at the beginning of 2024, that's when Liam Dawson should have played. I don't know whether he was injured at the time, but that's when they should have brought Dawson in. Jack Leach was injured, bring Dawson in. But Bashir came in, he did all right. He then kept the gig in the England team until now. And I don't see how England drop him. I really don't. And I think the main issue for me which is when Stokes comes to the end of his captaincy, Bashir, I just feel will get dropped. And it's a shame because I can't see enough of improvement yet from him to guarantee his spot for future to come. We need to see more growth from Bashir, but now I've said that, here's an incoming five for for Bashir at Lords. That's incredibly unlikely, but I'd love to see it. Anyway, I said we'd move on to the England fast bowlers, and we're going to do that now. I got sidetracked with Bashir. Bryden Cast, we'll start with him, has looked dangerous at points. He's looked good with the new ball, he's nibbled it around, and he's often looked dangerous, causing a few, you know, player misses that as a fan you look at and think, this lad's bowling well. That's as simple as it was for Bryden Cast. That's where my analysis stops. But it begins again because I feel that we rely on Bryden Cast. I feel like we look at Bryden Cast as this man who is the most experienced player. He is the best bowler in our side. That's how I see him. And then you look at his stats and you see he's only played 7 tests. It's not fair to this guy who is, he's bowling well in international cricket, but because there's not much going on around him in terms of the England bowlers, we look at him and we think he's our best bowler. The man's played 7 tests. Give him a break, everybody. And he's bowled well in this series. However, he's only taken 5 wickets against India at an average of 52.5. And you look at those stats and you see what Siraj and Akash Deep did in the last test, and you think, if this guy's meant to be our pick of the bowlers at the minute, and he's putting in those stats, you've got to be seriously worried, don't you? But I've got a lot of faith in Bryden Cast. I think when you need a man, Bryden Cast is your man. That's how I see Bryden Cast, really. I've talked about him before, but this is not me saying it's the end of Bryden Cast. It's absolutely not, because I think he's going to be crucial when we go to Australia. However, I'm beginning to feel it could be the end of Chris Woakes. A man who's played over 50 tests for England. He's got 3 wickets in the series so far at an average of 97. He's played in both games. He's played at his home ground of Edgbaston in that second test, and he's averaging 97. Yes, you could argue this team needs a bit of experience with Josh Tongue, who's only played 5 tests, but I do really begin to feel that it is the end of the road for Chris Woakes, unfortunately. There's an argument. He's got a great record at Lords. He's got 137 against India there in 2018. And I believe he averages about 13 with the ball there. He's taken multiple fifers. But Chris Woakes, I think, is possibly past it. And in the next test, we'll come on to see in a moment's time, maybe he could be making way. Anyway, Josh Tongue is the final man of this pace attack we're going to look at, because Ben Stokes has bowled pretty well. Yes, his batting's not been up there. He hasn't actually scored a Test 100 since 2023 Ashes, Ben Stokes. Anyway, another sidetrack. Josh Tongue, 11 wickets at 33 in this series. Admittedly, a lot of that taking apart the Indian tail. However, someone's got to do it, and if he wasn't there, India would have probably won the first test too. So, who's to say that Josh Tongue shouldn't keep his place for the next test as well? He's probably been our pick of the bowlers, despite looking pretty unpotent, if that's the word. He didn't really look potent against the Indian top order. So that's the one drawback of Josh Tongue at the minute. But nonetheless, the pace needs help, and Akash Deep took more wickets on his own than the England fast bowlers did in the whole of that second test. 10 wickets to 9, that was. So let's preview this England versus India test. I'll give a little prediction. But first of all, let's look at the England team. It would be very England. It would be very Brendan McCullum, wouldn't it, for them to produce an unchanged team, produce the same bowlers, play everyone in the exact same role. That's what I think could happen. I would not be surprised if that happens. However, here's what I think should happen. There's one man who's waiting in the wings. He was cheered along the boundary as he did his laps. He was bowling in the lunch breaks. This is all during the second test. And he's a man we're going to need for the Ashes. 3 tests left in this summer, and he's either got to play all of them or 2 of them. That man, everyone, to come in for Chris Woakes for me is Jofra Archer. Of course, we watched him tear apart Steve Smith, hit him on the helmet in 2019, bowling absolute pace. Who's to say he doesn't have that pace anymore? He's definitely got some of it, maybe not 100%, but nonetheless, all we know about Jofra Archer is the action looks the same. One ball will come out 70 and the next will come out 90 miles an hour. So that's just a kind of way to show you how skillful Jofra Archer is. But you all know how skillful he is. But he is a man who I think it's also Brendan McCullum to bring him in, isn't it? He's our best bowler. He's our fastest bowler. He's fit, bring him in. He's fit, bring him in. That's what they do in England. But Jofra Archer will be coming in. Gus Atkinson's been added to the squad, everyone. Big cheer for Gus Atkinson, who's got 100, a fiver, and a 10 wicket match last year at Lords. So he's got a pretty good record there. But I do think it's a little bit too early for Gus Atkinson. He's got to play at least one or two tests before we go out to Australia. So who's to say we couldn't have a fast bowling lineup of Atkinson, Archer, and Carse come the end of this five-test series with Wood almost back fit. He won't be around for the end of this series, I don't think. But nonetheless, we have a few England fast bowlers who are coming through. Just as we are saying that we don't really like the look of these England fast bowlers, two new ones are back fit and raring to go. So those two are going to be crucial come the end of this series. But I do think it'll be one change for England come this third test, and I do think it'll be Archer in for Chris Wokes. Maybe in for Bryden Castles if his toe's playing up, because we know that Chris Wokes' experience is very valuable, because Jofra Archer's not an experienced test bowler either, is he? But nonetheless, I reckon Archer will be coming in. And I do think it's not too... I keep saying this, don't I? That it's so Bazball to do this. But it is so Bazball to play Archer, Tongue and Cast. Probably about 15 tests combined in those three. But if you feel like they're your best three bowlers, play them. That's what Bazball does. But Bumrah will be coming in. It looks like he's going to be coming in for Prasid Krishna, which is a very, very makeable substitute. Krishna not doing much across the first two tests. But that three-man pace lineup of Akash Deep, Mohammad Siraj, and Jasprit Bumrah, after what the first two did in that second test, looks absolutely horrifying, doesn't it? And in compared to that England bowling lineup, it looks a little bit shaky, doesn't it? Anyway, I do think that the prediction, despite India winning two of the last three test matches between England and India at Lords, I do believe it's going to be a win for England. So despite everything I've said, I do think England are going to fight back. I reckon Jofra will take Shubman Gill either in the first innings or the second innings. But I think it's going to be a tighter game, and I reckon it's going to be about a 70-run win for England. Let's have a little really quick look over the Australia versus West Indies series. And it's the kind of series that England just would have lost. They would have lost this series because West Indies looked pretty good. Anyway, it finished 2-0 to Australia. And the one thing that worries me about the Ashes and this series is that Australia didn't look the better team for a lot of that series. And they won 2-0. And they won 2-0 in the end pretty comfortably. And West Indies were in it in both games until that final innings, where Australia just bowled them all out, showed their class, showed that they're in a different league to the West Indies. And I think almost what was the most impressive was that Australia didn't have a very functioning top three. Constas and Usman Khawaja at the top of the order, hardly making any runs between them, not making a 50 either of them in that series. Cameron Green made a 52 in the final innings, which was pretty crucial. However, he looked pretty shaky as well. A lot of unconfidence, low confidence maybe in that top three for Australia, which often led to Steve Smith getting exposed very early on in the innings, which also showed a little crack in his form. However, Carey, Head, and Webster in that middle order. Bo Webster showing great signs. 50s for all three of them throughout the series. A couple for Carey, and I think a couple for Head as well. But just nonetheless, these guys were just holding up that middle order. And it's another thing that worries me about the Ashes, which is, let's say maybe Labuschagne comes back in, or if the openers get going a little bit. If that middle order for Australia is functioning well, it's really bad signs for England. And especially if we can't take 20 wickets against India in home conditions, it's looking really, really worrying. But as I said, it's the kind of series that England just would have lost, and Australia won it 2-0. The likes of the West Indies fast bowling and Jaden Seals, Shamar Joseph and Alzari Joseph were absolute class. These three were tearing through the Aussie top order. A lot of it was because of the shaky Constas, Khawaja and Green up top. However, nonetheless, a brilliant series came to an end between West Indies and Australia. But it does worry me. And every single day, my Ashes prediction changes, because that's what we're going to move on to now. Really quick prediction of the Ashes. After seeing the second test, I'm so just reactive in these predictions. After seeing the second test where England got pumped and we couldn't take wickets with fast bowling, and seeing Australia essentially come from behind on several occasions to beat West Indies quite comfortably, my new prediction is 4-1 to Australia. It changes every week, everybody. But the one thing that could change it all is Jofra Archer, because that's what we're going to see come the next test, hopefully. But now we're going to move on. India under 19 versus England under 19. I'm going to pick out two players. One's a friend of the show, but the first one is not. And it's probably far too big time for me at 14 years old. The Vaibhav Suryavanshi, he's astonishing. 5 games against England under 19. He scored 355 runs at an average of 71. But here it is, a strike rate of 175 in 50 over games. He top scored with 143 off 78 balls, which I think was a 53 ball 100. And then he also got an 86 off 31 balls, which was a strike rate of 277. He's hitting balls out of the ground wherever he plays, and the bloke is 14. It seems hardly believable, doesn't it? However, there is a lot of Vaibhav Suryavanshi that we will see over the next probably 20 years, I reckon. And who's to say he couldn't be in this Indian international team within the next couple? Astonishing stuff from Vaibhav Suryavanshi. But speak of astonishing, there's one England man who showed incredible signs of form and also played in the T20 Blast the other day for Somerset. Friend of the show, Thomas Rue, might be listening now even. He scored 280 runs in this series against the Indian under-19s. He is a fine young player. 2 not outs in his 5 games, bringing his average to 93 for the series at a strike rate of 142, top scoring with 131 off 89, and also scoring a magnificent 76 not out to win the game off 44 balls. He's a level above the other England players, and those two are the pick of the series, Suryavanshi and Thomas Rue, in a great series with a lot of young talent performing very, very well. Finally, club match of the week, everyone. This was sent to me by a listener, and it's a game up in Nottinghamshire, I believe, near Mansfield. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was between Kirkby Portland and Hucknall. Now, Hucknall batted first. They posted 191. Then Kirkby Portland came in with 192 to win. Just like England, 6 ducks fell, but this time in the top 8 for Kirkby Portland, leaving that team 91 for 9. In comes Thomas Newcombe, the number 11, alongside Jonathan Williamson, who was 13 not out at the time. So they needed an extra 101 to win when these two came in. Now, this was an incredible 10th wicket stand, and also thanks to a magnificent 43 extras from Hucknall, left them 190 for 9. 2 to win. Newcombe, the number 11, was on 47 not out. Williamson at the other end on 39. And Newcombe whacks a 4 to win it with 4 overs to go for Kirkby Portland. That was a 104-run partnership for the 10th wicket to win the game. Can you imagine the scenes as Thomas Newcombe got to his 50 with the winning runs, needing 101 to win when he came in? Unbelievable stuff. And what a way to end the episode. Make sure you leave a review. Go and check out the social media platforms and give it a rating as well. And most importantly, click follow wherever you are listening. So I really hope this week that question got answered of what is he on about. Cheers.